self-control. Gravity is all that I know. She's over me. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Paranormal Portal. I'm your host, Brent Thomas, and I'm thrilled to be here. I got my ears blown out. Apparently, driver changed its mind on my computer right at the present time before we launched here, so I'm desperately trying to get everything back the way that it should be, but that's just the way it rolls here on the portal. You just never know. So tonight, we're going to discuss time, and if you have the time, we're going to make the time to talk about time. Paranormal time, and that's going to be the topic for tonight, so buckle in, tune in, relax, draw down the lights, get a warm beverage, cold beverage, whatever you're after, and hang on, because we're going in. So time is the discussion tonight, ladies and gentlemen, and of course the paranormal is chock full of all kinds of references to time anomalies. There are so many to choose from, and it's a topic that, I mean, it's hard to dial in really in one episode. You could do a whole show on just the idea of time anomalies, but I mean a whole series of shows. Like, that's the topic of the show. But before I go any further, let me welcome my good friend and co-host to the show, Mr. Don Longbeard.
Hola, everyone. How are you? I have to work on addressing the camera again. Hi.
Yeah,
how are you?
I kind of forgotten as well. You know, when the volume was just
it was crazy.
Pounding just in my ear, and of course, again, Microsoft, thank you so much for making my life dynamic. That's all I can say. It's just so frustrating. It's like, really? Do we really have to keep doing this every time?
No doubt, every time.
Every time. It's just so stupid. But I am going to keep plugging here and see if I can figure out just what the hell's going on. Let's see, is that input or output? Input would be this, so what is it set to? Let's go to this. I hope that's right.
Bom, bom, bom.
Well, I guess we're going to find out. We won't be able to find out for a little bit, but I'm changing stuff on the fly, ladies and gentlemen. That's how we roll here on the Paranormal Portal.
Let's see how it works this time.
Yeah, we're going to just try that. Everybody tune in and watch Adventures in Troubleshooting on the Paranormal Portal. It's always an adventure here on the show. But time anomalies, Don. You know, we've done shows about this before. Usually it's really hard to understand what could be going on. But now when you look at physics and you look at quantum physics and you start seeing, you know, the approaching the speed of light, time slows down, blah, blah, blah. There's something that people report, and it can be in UFO abduction cases.
Right.
And in those cases, missing time is probably a result of being rendered unconscious, but not knowing it.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah, you can call it that.
Right. I mean, you know, you're abducted, you're sucked up into a craft. They kind of just turn you off, you know, for the most part. You know, people, of course, can regressive hypnosis to figure out what the hell happened, or, you know, people believe they're figuring out what happened. Of course, the skeptics aren't so convinced, but you know, for them, the time is gone. Something I saw a bright light. I found myself the next moment sitting on the ground, rubbing my head and looking at my watch, and 3 hours had gone by. And so that's a missing time. And that would be a little bit different than what we're going to discuss tonight, ladies and gentlemen. But that certainly is a time anomaly, but it's more to do with being influenced very intentionally by what we assume are extraterrestrial beings, that they basically shut people off in order to do whatever it is that they do, and apparently they do all kinds of things. The kind of anomalies we're talking about are where people have perhaps stepped back in time, and there's There's many stories of people turning a corner and finding themselves in a much earlier version of a town than the one that they are familiar with. There are stories of people being out in a park and suddenly, looking through a forest clearing and seeing an ancient battle playing itself out. There are stories of people driving to work and suddenly they're there and they don't know how it happened.
Right.
There are so many different encounters with time. And then there are the kind of stories about things being found that don't seem to match our history as we know it.
Right.
So they're out of time. And those are called artifacts out of time. And so these are the kind of things we're going to discuss tonight. And this, to me, is an incredibly interesting topic because, I love the idea that there's mystery out there, that there's still things to discover and explore. One of my pet peeves personally is the hubris of, we've got it all figured out. That doesn't make sense because that's not scientifically sound. We have such arrogance in our sciences, and God bless them. They've done some amazing things, and I'm not degrading some, truly phenomenal and miraculous accomplishments that we've done. But what I'm addressing specifically here is the closed-minded idea that things can only exist in their scientific model and there's no room for anything else. Now, right off the bat, we all know those people that just can't accept anything. They just can only accept black and
black and white,
3 dimensions.
Yeah,
everything is absolutely in its correct place. It's all categorized. It's all labeled. It's all shelved, and it's cataloged, and that's reality. And I think about those kind of people, and I guess there must be a security in that. There must be a comfort in living that way. But to me, it would be a horrible existence. To me, because that's a sterile world. That's a sterile existence. There may be some new discovery just over the horizon and such, but I think those kind of people are missing the quote-unquote magic that is in the world that we know, or are trying to know, or don't know at all, as the case may be. But tonight we're going to explore some of these ideas and some of these stories and some of these encounters and accounts. To me, one of the most amazing time anomalies is not the fact that people may lose an hour or two and weren't abducted, or they may have some anomaly where they basically are repeating a moment. That to me it is extraordinary. But the ones that really scratch my head, like the normal time variety things that I just described, that doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me that reality is dynamic and shifting and changing. That doesn't surprise me. The things that surprise me are finding machined aluminum in fossilized beds next to mastodon skulls. Now that to me is exciting because it seems to speak to a history that we had no concept of. That there's been things going on here for a hell of a lot longer than we think. And if that is the case, what was that world that was here before? What was that reality that was in our same space but at a different point in time? And there are stories of screws being embedded in hundreds of million-year-old rocks. There are stories of tools, recognizable tools.
Yep.
That are found embedded in hundreds of millions of year old rocks. And that to me is exciting, really, really exciting. And it's all exciting, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not trying to minimize any of it. It's all fantastical, and it all speaks to the mystery and the magic that's still out there. And to me it is magical. It's magical because it's mysterious, it's unknown, it's this hidden world that we're not really aware of, and that we're only beginning to come aware of, and even then will we ever? I don't know. But what is your thoughts on these things, Don?
There time slips. Personal time slips, like people stepping into a building and then being transported back into time, or sometimes even forward into time. Those are harder to find, though. Those kind of stories are harder to find. But I've always loved the movie Somewhere in Time.
I don't think I saw that.
It's got Christopher Reeves and Jane Seymour.
Oh,
and he finds a penny, and the year on the penny is the time he keeps transporting back to. It's actually a love story, but it's kind of a great show. But the idea is that he concentrates on this penny, and he can go back into time and to this year, this specific year, and he keeps bumping into this woman, and they fall in love, and blah 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 blah. But that's the whole idea is triggers. What are the triggers that that maybe make these happen, or is it just the person steps through a wormhole and is transported somewhere else? And so it really piques the imagination. What can happen? What did happen? And being able to see something in the past for me, because I'm a history guy. I like the history of things. I would love to go back and time and see what things were. I've often wondered if I'm a person out of time myself. So I wonder if that's part of my journey too, is finding that space. But
just out of curiosity, what era do you resonate with?
I just, there's so many. Maybe Victorian times, maybe a little more modern. But Victorian times spans from like 1750 into the 1800s. So 18th, 19th century. When life was easier but yet tougher in a lot of different ways.
Sure.
I dare I say I'm slightly technologically challenged. I figure things out as I go along.
Right.
But that's the way I learn. But I think these modern times just aren't for me sometimes, and I really wonder sometimes. Am I a person out of time? And I wonder, like I said, if that's part of the reason I'm on this journey is to figure that out. But.
Right.
And then, of course, the O parts, the artifacts out of time. Those are interesting too, because there's also the story of the spark plug that was in the sediment. Like million-year-old sediment, the fusion reactor that they found, the natural fusion reactor that they found in Africa, I believe it was.
Wow. Yeah.
So
I'd forgotten about that.
yeah. So was that an artifact out of time, or was that something that people figured out way back then, or was it possibly aliens trying to refuel their ship? Who knows?
Right.
But it's something that happened, a million years ago. And so, it's definitely interesting to look into. So, Pixie says there's probably a secret time machine in Don's basement. I'll never tell. But yeah, it's a very interesting subject for me. So, absolutely.
Right. I think so too, and it's certainly probably brings more questions than definitely more questions than answers. Not probably, but it makes you think. It makes you think, and it definitely challenges the understanding of the world that we have. And I hope throughout the course of this show, I certainly can't prove any of these things exist. I believe they do. I've experienced a lot of varied phenomena in my life, and to me, it's not a question, but I guess if the show does one thing, it's just that I want people to question it all, question reality, question your existence, and look deeper, because there's so much going on here, and of course, being on TFR is a godsend in many ways, because we are surrounded with a bunch of wonderful hosts, and always thank you to Frank and Paula for throwing the show over to me afterwards. It's really cool being on this new schedule. I'm just really loving this earlier nights and getting to meet all these new listeners. That's really cool. But I hope you guys, during the course of our show, at least, if all you do is just relax and unwind and listen to a bunch of fantastic stories, then cool. That's great, because that there's there is certainly that too, and you don't have to be a believer. There's no qualification for listening in. You don't have to believe any of it. Just have a good time and enjoy yourselves.
Yeah, just and if you have something to say, let us know. And that way we can maybe address it and put it definitely. And remember, these are all our own opinions,
Right?
And as we understand it. So there you go. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's probably a good thing to throw out there. We certainly are never going to be preoccupied with convincing anybody of anything. Whatever you choose to believe is of course yours. This isn't about changing your paradigm on the paranormal portal.
Right.
If it does, that's really cool. We maybe the paranormal portal is like the gateway drug to transcendental journeys.
Wow, a gateway. We're a gateway drug.
We're a gateway drug.
Wow.
I don't know. It's possible because once you start questioning reality and once you start questioning the status quo and the accepted norms,
right,
that's when the journey really starts. I was watching, and this is a little bit of a side segue, but today I was just ran into this series of videos by this guy, and basically he's coaching people how to shine in social situations, and I think that there's merit to that, and he's talking about how to keep your composure and own the room kind of thing, and when you walk in, and don't let people steal your spotlight stuff, and I was listening to him, and what had occurred to me is essentially it's a lot of people vying for status in a really plastic world. Like, does it really matter if people in a room feel like you are the center of attention or not? Is that really important?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it was just kind of odd for me. I don't know how to explain it, but it was like people, they break it down into a science. Well, this is how you should talk. Right. You should use this tone, and you should have this posture, and when this guy says this is what he's actually trying to do, and this is how you counter that, and keep your status without letting him change that. And it's like, wow, it's so plastic, it's so cosmetic. And like I said, there are situations where those kind of skills are of course, very important and have a lot of value. But it just occurred to me as I was watching it, like, who cares what other people think?
Exactly.
Who cares if if you're not the center of attention in a room? Most of the time, I don't even want to be in the room anyway.
Ego. It has to be.
Yeah, exactly.
Egos.
It's a very egocentric world, but this is a person who is fully invested into the illusions of the world and not into so much into themselves. Right. It was my takeaway, and that may be me looking at it with a real skewed bias, and if that's the case, I do apologize. I don't pretend to come from any moral high ground or philosophical high ground at all. It's just my view is so much different than that, and it's changed over the years. There was a time in my life when those kind of things were much more important than they are. Now I really don't care. I sometimes go to the store in my slippers. It's just like, yeah, I'm just going as I am.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't care. I'll be in my pajama or my pajama bottoms and a T-shirt, and it's like, yeah, I just need some bread.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just here for the white bread.
Yeah, exactly. That's all. The kid needs some milk. All right. So but it's just the cosmetic vision of reality. Of course, it's just bound to disappoint you sooner or later. So I hope that during the course of the show that we at least shake people's paradigms a little bit.
Right.
At least introduce ideas, at least food for thought and pondering. And certainly Time Anomalies is one of those that really makes you think. And it really cooks your bacon when you consider the possibilities and you consider what does this represent. Because again, in my opinion, the paranormal is the breadcrumbs. And this is something that I would definitely qualify as paranormal, is that time you can kind of sidestep through it sometimes and end up somewhere else. And
I'd love to do that someday.
I know there are certain periods of my life I wouldn't mind missing, believe me.
The period of my life last night between about the time of 1 p.m. and about 9 p.m. I'd like to have sidestepped. It was called work.
Right. Well, we're doing our best, Don.
There you go. Well, we're doing a darn good job of it.
Absolutely. But that's the journey tonight, ladies and gentlemen. And we're going to share some ideas and thoughts. But first of all, I wanted to bring you a piece of news, and I thought this was incredibly incredibly interesting. And this is paranormal news segment on the portal. And basically what happened, and you can certainly find references to this if you Google search or search using whatever your favorite search engine is. Actually, I found out about a new one, and I have to thank the Lucky for this. If you guys are looking for a search engine that apparently is absolutely, it does no tracking at all whatsoever, and is completely anonymous, it's Gibiru or Gibiru, GIBIRU.com. That's been a really cool search engine. I've been trying it out. Now, when you use a lot of search engines, ladies and gentlemen, a lot of times you're plugged into an algorithm after a while on Google. You'll never see truly robust results because it always tries to aim it towards this is what you liked before, and so it's really cool to use a different search engine and see how the results can change, and you can find new information and stuff. So it's Jabiru.com. Check it out. But I did run into this story, and I thought it was really cool, and it definitely plays into the theme tonight. So what it is there was a paranormal investigator. He's apparently discovered a time warp in the state of Nevada. And this is using a piece of brand new technology. And what was going on is he was using this technology to go around the area of Las Vegas and Area 51 and look for any anomalies in time, because the way this piece of equipment works is it sends a signal from one node to a second node, which is a couple or 300 feet away, and it measures the time down to a picoseconds. I mean, it's just really, really dialed in and accurate. And what he found when he got around the area of allegedly around the area of Area 51 was he recorded a 20
millisecond.
Was it millisecond or microsecond? Microsecond.
Okay,
20 microseconds. It said time was slowing down 20 microseconds around the area of Area 51. So essentially to bring that to basic understanding, which is what I need,
Yep.
is that allegedly what it would take for time as we know it, or what it should take for time as we know it, to alter to any degree and to slow down would be the presence of a black hole somewhere in the vicinity. A black hole. So, but 20 microseconds, and granted, it's an infinitesimal small piece of time, but it is an anomaly. It's showing that around the area of Area 51, which also is a hot spot for UFO activity. No. Yes, it is, Don.
No.
It's true.
Wow.
A lot of people have seen things there. But,
I imagine.
But, 20 microseconds, it was slowed down.
And that's a lot of power they would take to, a black hole. That's sucking gravity, light, everything.
Yep.
Time as well.
Now, the equipment they were using was developed in Silicon Valley by engineer Ron Heath, and it's known as a DT meter, which stands for differential time rate meter. And that's what they were using to do that. And I don't know what purpose, if this is exactly what it was designed for or not, but this is the way he's using it. And this discovery apparently comes as of July of this year. So this isn't like some old dusty, forgotten about anomaly. This is from July of 2018. So now this kind of plays into my idea that there are portals and things around, that they are kind of a natural anomaly. Now, perhaps he was happened to be on a maybe in a event horizon of a portal, some kind of time space portal. You know what I mean? So he's equating with in scientific means, the only thing we know of as far as what is a naturally occurring phenomena would be a black hole. But what if there are time-space portals around? And what if they appear and disappear as if, the respiration of reality as we know it? And what if he happened to just be there at the same time? And apparently he's been trying to, to duplicate that and find other areas. But as far as he's concerned, this apparently was reported in quite a few journals anyway, but it does demonstrate that there is possibly some natural fluctuations of time, or maybe there's a lot more going on at Area 51 than we realize.
I wonder what would happen if you took that to CERN.
That would be interesting. Yeah, that would be interesting. I don't know. I don't know if a particle accelerator creating collisions would create time anomalies as well. That's an interesting
imagine
thought.
how that wouldn't, though. I mean, because that's how it all started, supposedly.
Right. Well, there you go. That's very true.
That's how it started.
Right. So, but I thought that was a really interesting piece of information, and I thought you guys might enjoy it. I found it incredibly interesting, so check it out. The investigator's name is, let me look it up here. It's Joshua Warren, Warren, and so apparently he found a time warp on the outskirts of Las Vegas, Nevada. So,
Hacker One,
Yeah.
Hacker One says, "I think CERN started the what?
it's time for the break.
Wow.
And that's still loud as hell, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
All right, we'll be back, ladies and gentlemen. Don't go away for more of the Paranormal Portal.
Hi there, Chris Geo here. If you're like me, you've heard many shows.
ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Paranormal Portal. I'm still your host, Brent Thomas, and I'm still joined by Don Longbeard, and we are cruising the night away.
Wow, we are.
That break kind of came up in a surprise.
Quicker, yep.
Yeah, I did get the sound sorted, ladies and gentlemen. I was able to accomplish that over break, so we should no longer go deaf from bumper music coming in.
Ouch.
It hit like a truck, didn't it? When it came in, it's like, time for break. So here we are, ladies and gentlemen. Now we're going to get into some more stories of time anomalies. I hope you guys like that paranormal news segment. That was kind of new. I was going to have titles and all that stuff. I'm going to get all that stuff done.
He's going to get it together.
I'm trying, ladies and gentlemen. There's only one me. It's just so hard to do all this graphic stuff. But, I'm just trying to keep up with you guys, trying to keep you amazed. We got some listener mails I think we want to get to now. What do you think, Don? Should we get into these listener mails?
Yeah.
All right. So I got one through message on Facebook, but I'll get to that one in a second. But I want to get to the first one here, which is, of course, from our own Lady Death. All right. Well, let me get to this. And let me blow it up. I really got to bring my glasses up. I keep forgetting because I don't usually wear them in the house. I usually only need them for driving, but apparently I need them for small print now. I'm getting older. So here it comes. When hit, here go. All right. The reclining spirit sleepover.
Ooh.
I was about 12 years old and staying with my friend at her grandmother's house. We decided to sleep over at a girl's house across the street, and we were just hanging out, watching age-inappropriate movies like Porky's while the girl's dad was at work.
Right on.
I love you, Lady Death. You're awesome. At some point, we were all laying on a bed talking, and suddenly my friend giggled and said, "Jack licked my hand." Jack was a dog who belonged to the girl whose house we were staying at. The girl replied to my friend, "No, he didn't. Jack is right here with me."
Uh-oh.
My friend did a, "Oh my God," and yanked her hand back on the bed, in unison with us yanking our limbs up on the top of the bed. We were freaked out as she swore something licked her hand. Jeez, that is creepy. We decided we want to get out of that room and head for the living room, and as we were walking out there, the recliner gave a forceful rock back and forth, just like a dog jumped off, but the dog was with us. We scream and run back into the bedroom we had just left terrified from, and we ended up calling the police. Wow, no kidding. When the police arrived, I refused to leave the room to answer the door. My friend, braver than I, ran out there, and they could see we were terrified by the way we were holding each other's shirts while coming to greet them. They looked around the house and didn't see anything, and to make us feel better, they told us they had just gotten a phone call from someone in the neighborhood about kids in masks running through people's backyards. Told us to keep the doors locked and feel free to call them anytime. It was strange, and I was scared, not so much of people in masks, but from the unseen thing licking appendages of young girls and rocking a recliner.
Wow.
That night, we all went to sleep in the middle. We all wanted to sleep in the middle. Yeah, I don't blame you. That's, I don't know what, I mean, maybe it is a spirit of a dog, and, that's certainly possible. We hear about those from time to time, but I don't think I've ever heard a story of some ghost dog licking a hand. And, of course, the behavior of a dog being in a chair they're not supposed to. When the people came, it would probably jump out like, no, I'm down. It was,
I'm not there. It's not me.
It's not me. That chair was just in my way. So, I mean, it does sound like it's a spirit of a dog to me, but that would be unusual behavior. I mean, I can't imagine what that would feel like to feel a lick.
The mysterious tongue licking your hand.
Yeah, and you hope it's a dog
You
at
hope
that
it's a
point
dog, yeah,
because
but like,
everything else is just creepy. No, you're good.
Oh, good. Oh, no. See? Yeah.
No, you're good.
Okay.
It's back. I don't know what's going on.
I don't know.
But yeah, it's just a licking of a hand has got to be weird. Now I'm curious if the lick felt warm and wet like a dog's would, or did it feel cold? It'd be interesting to hear the details of that. But thank you, Lady Death, for sharing that. That was awesome. Yeah, that would be absolutely creepy and terrifying. But especially when you're young like that, it's like, oh no. And I think that in those kind of situations, you're in a situation anyway. something creepy happens, but you have friends with you, but the panic almost becomes a snowballing effect.
Right.
One person's scared, they start jumping and startling and screaming, and then it scares everybody else even more because the person that's freaking out the most is going to freak everyone else out,
Right.
and the panic just rises. So I'd be really curious about that. I would. It does sound like some pet has lingered for some reason. Which is kind of tragic, really.
Yeah.
But maybe it's sweet. I don't know. But if it's anything else, like some kind of dark thing, that's
It's a little imp under your bed.
yeah. Or even if it was a ghost of a person, that's even creepier. You know, it's like if it's a dog, it's okay. It might be a ghost dog that licked the hand. That makes sense. If it's a ghost of a person that's licking people, that's just wrong on so many levels. That's wrong.
Oh.
But thank you so much for sending that in and sharing that with us. That was very cool. And we got another message in here. I'm going to try to open it. This is from Becky in the Midwest. And let's see if I can open it. Perhaps, maybe. I can do it this.
Yeah, there you go.
Can I? Does this work?
Yeah, you should be able to do it that way.
Okay, let me try this. I'm adding it to my drive. What do I do now? Okay, organized in drive. Do I just organize it?
That's
No.
weird. I've never seen that happen.
Okay. Yeah, that's me.
Well, just go ahead and download it real quick to your.
Okay. And I'll just see if I can. I know it's going to want to.
You should just be able to open it like that. Yeah.
Yeah, all right, I'll try.
There you go.
All right, looks like it's going to work. I don't have the official office thing, so it always
Screw 'em.
gives me a bunch of error messages when this stuff happens. But we'll see what I can do here.
Oh, there it is.
There it is. Okay, in the summer of 1992, I was living with my mom, and I had a lot of friends and family in the next town over. A girlfriend and I had spent a Saturday getting up to mischief, and instead of going to my home, we headed to hers, 45 miles away. Wow. Just in the neighborhood.
Well, you know the Midwest.
Yeah, that's true. Everything's far apart. We were about halfway there, and it was probably close to 3 a.m., and we were tired. She was mostly asleep, and I was zoning out while driving. Yikes. We crested a low-lying hill and cruised into the valley, and up on the next side, suddenly my headlights lit up a thing in the middle of the road. It was large, at least half the size of a sports car, and it was pink and glistening. It was a blobby mass that really didn't have a shape and just the suggestion of legs and feet. It had a mostly human head, but was hairless. It had a pig snout and tusks and ears, but very human eyes. It just felt evil, malevolent. I swerved to avoid it, but still felt a bump, as if I had run the thing over. I know I hollered. My friend did too. She was startled awake and saw the thing at the same time I did. We drove about 5 more minutes and came to a stop sign. We stopped and hyperventilated for a bit, with the doors locked. Instead of going to her house, we went to my grandparents' house, which is about 10 minutes away. When we got there, we were both counted to 3 and jumped out of the car, armed with a flashlight, and checked the car for damage. With the size of the bump that the car made, there should have been some evidence, but there was nothing. We both hurried inside and into the downstairs family room. Turned on all the lights. We were both still very freaked out. We talked about what had just experienced, and our details matched. We had both seen the same freaky thing. She mentioned that it wasn't the first demon she had seen. I wasn't sure what to make of that. Yeah, I hear you. You're screwed up.
I'm done.
All right. Craziest thing ever, though. I've never encountered anything like that since. And that's one of those situations where you don't want to.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and I don't know what it is. Why would it be in the middle of the road? Well, it must have wanted to be seen.
Yeah.
But you're right. Having someone say that's not the only thing they've seen.
It's not the first time.
I mean, that's like red flag, red flag. What the hell's your friend doing? At that point, you go, all right, what else have you seen, and why are you seeing it?
Why am I hallucinating it with you?
Why am I seeing it with you?
Wow.
Exactly.
That is crazy, though. Yeah.
That's just creepy. And you don't know. I mean, that's the thing. It's hard to know. what is out there, and there doesn't seem to be any guidelines. It's just these weird manifestations. Now, it could be a demonic thing, I suppose. This is also from Becky, and she says, after my son was about a year old, we moved into an old farmhouse in the middle of a cornfield. I've always been a farm kid, so I didn't think much of it. It was just the two of us. And even though it was more house than we really needed, we made the most of it. Rather. Every so often, I would hear the house creak, even though it wasn't windy, and always assumed that it was just because it was an older house. There were times, though, especially if I got home later at night, I worked a swing shift, and I could just feel this really negative energy radiating from the house. A malevolence. It was just really angry and could feel that whatever it was, it meant me harm. This continued for a couple of months, and I figured that I was just being an overly sensitive girl that was living in the middle of a cornfield.
You think?
Yep.
I can't blame you.
She says, yep, I've seen Children of the Corn. Malachi, he wants you to.
He wants you.
One time, though, my sister was with me, and we pulled up to the house, and the porch light flickered and then stopped. And then flickered and then stopped again. Something it hadn't done before. Suddenly, that angry, negative, scary feeling just came over me. My sister turned to look at me and could see that I was stressing out about something, and she asked, "Can you feel that?" I wanted to make sure that we were on the same page and asked her, "The malevolence?" She shrugged and said, Yeah, that. I breathed a sigh of relief and told her that I could feel it, and that it wasn't the first time. She then wanted to know if we had to go inside. So I asked her where else we were going to go and sleep that night. She suggested going to my parents' place 15 minutes away. Sounded better to me, so we noped out of there. I moved out about a month later. I just couldn't take that feeling anymore.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, no kidding. And nobody can blame you. That's the right thing to do. Noping out of something like that makes perfect sense to, I think, everybody. Everybody just called and they agree.
101 callers agree that. Noping the hell out of that house.
Yeah,
is
I
a
mean,
good idea.
there's just some things you don't have to tolerate, and one of them is an evil house.
Right.
There's other houses that aren't evil. So
True
find
enough.
them.
Yeah, definitely. That's
So,
crazy, though.
That is a crazy story.
It kind of makes you wonder: is it the personality of the house? Because a lot of people say that if a house sits empty for a time, it starts to die. The warmth of it, the good feelings of a new house or a new area. Being somewhere new. Is that is that kind of a truth? Does the house die in a way? And maybe this old farmhouse in the middle of a cornfield, maybe it sat for a while, and maybe it just had that perishing personality.
Maybe it could be. I had never heard that before, but I think that's a very interesting viewpoint. Does a house need occupants in order to maintain its energy?
Well, I think, and I'm going to throw this out there. I think they would, because they need something or somebody to keep the life in it. Mm-hmm. To maybe do some some repairs, keep it keep it healthy,
Mm-hmm.
to help keep it healthy. We go to mechanics, we go to a doctor, we go to, whatever, maybe a house needs that interaction to help it stay healthy.
That could be. I mean, that's a great opinion and a great analogy. And it's actually very poetic, to be honest with you.
Thank you.
That's very cool. I had never considered that before, but that could be a possibility. Perhaps that's where the dark and angry comes from. It's just that it's been empty for so long, and it just feels neglected, and becomes jaded over time.
Oh no!
Well, I mean, people do. If they're left alone for a long time, they become crotchety and mean. And
no,
really, they do.
No,
unless,
we don't. I mean, no, that doesn't.
No, I don't. I mean, no. No, you know what I'm saying, though. I mean,
right.
There's some people, if they don't have that love and kindness. Now, is there a spirit to everything? I guess that's the next question.
That's a good question.
Right, and it's very interesting, but very, very good consideration. Thanks for sharing that, and that's going to sit in my mind for quite a while now. I'll have to ponder that.
There you go.
So
Points to Ponder by Dawn.
it's not just beans up in here.
Oh no. Oh boy. Okay.
All right, here's the third and final submission by Becky, and this is: I live in a part of the U.S. that has had regular Bigfoot sightings, and generally speaking, I feel that they are real, but don't think that they spend much time in populated areas. Otherwise, we'd have more sightings. Anyway, last year we had some investigation types out to check the structure that we found in the woods behind our house, and they were certain that we'd had some sort of visitation by Mr. Bigfoot. We just checked one out too, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that going on, apparently. They do love to build stuff, allegedly. I don't think too much of it as long as he left me alone. I wasn't planning on bugging him for his autograph or anything like that. This past spring, our dryer went out, and I'm too cheap to go into the laundromat that I don't really have to go. Instead, we were hanging out our wet clothes on a clothesline to dry, and it was nice weather, so why not? One afternoon in early May, I was getting it was getting to rain again, so I was hurrying to get everything off the line and into the house before it got wet again, and I felt like I needed to hurry, but not just because of the rain. I felt like I was being watched by something. It was in the trees behind my house, whatever it was, and it started making noise too, this growly grunting noise. It made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up and freak me out. All I could think is that I was going to be attacked by a bear or something because I wanted dry towels. I hurried my butt up and got inside, and the last 10 minutes of pulling laundry was accompanied by a sense of doom and growls and grunts. Later, I checked around to see if a bear had been seen in the area, and no, nobody had seen one. Also, bears apparently don't make that kind of noise. We got the dryer fixed, and it didn't need to stress Mr. Bigfoot out by hanging my laundry on the line. Well, that's good. Yeah, generally bears do this clacking of their teeth, like they, and I can't really do it right now because thank you, Don, for filling that in.
This Chatterbox from the Hellraiser movies.
There you go. But apparently that's what bear do.
Huh.
At least black bears. They'll like clump their teeth together, like, So I don't know that they don't growl. I don't know that they do. I'm certainly not a bear expert. But yeah, I mean, we have that sixth sense. We have that ability to, and I think there's more to it than just being, unreasonable or foolish. I think when you feel like something's watching you, it probably is. I really believe in those kind of intuitions. What do you think, Don?
Gut. There's something to be said about gut feeling. I mean,
Right.
it talks to our primal. It
Right.
talks to the primal being in us.
It really does.
Being in us.
I'm so
And,
glad you got those syllables nailed.
And so it really speaks to the fight or flight. We've mentioned
Right.
it before. And she mentioned that the hair raised on her body, and so immediately I thought of infrasound.
Right.
But
Oh,
bears
that's true.
don't have infrasound. They don't.
I don't
think
believe
they do. Yeah.
No.
So that's an interesting thought, but. Intuition is a powerful thing. I mean, I know when
It
I'm
is.
not supposed to do something. Hey, let's go cliff diving. Hey, let's not.
But have you ever had that experience? Okay, like you go someplace regularly, and one time you go, it just feels wrong. Like something is off. Something is like heavy, and you feel it. Like you feel those eyes on you.
I call that work.
Well, that's,
But no, I mean, but I'm
I'm trying to be serious here.
you're right. I mean, sometimes there is. There's that thing that just says you don't need to be here right now.
Right, you
And
should not
that's
be here.
like, okay, fine. I'll go elsewhere.
I think it stems from probably some long distant past
Yeah, yeah.
where we were, we didn't have homes and
Right.
fences and lights and stuff. And when you got that feeling, you listened because the alternative was to not be anymore.
Not be.
You were going to be an
not.
hors d'oeuvre.
An
Yeah.
hors d'oeuvre.
Right. I mean, because things would
appetizer.
eat people
Yeah,
like us
yeah.
back in the days.
Yeah.
And especially being alone. That's,
Crunchy with ketchup.
So yeah, I think that those are just genetically tuned into us, and we
Right.
have that intuition or that sense, that extra sense, and while we may not pay attention to it as much as we used to, or it may not be as tuned as it used to be,
Right. Yeah.
I think when you get those feelings that something's wrong, it
gotta
probably is, and you better listen. because you're getting those vibes for a reason. So very cool. Thank you, Becky, so much for sending those in and sharing them with us here on the portal. Love you bunches. And keep them coming if you come up with any more. And any of you guys, if you come up with any stories you'd like to share on the portal, just email them into Paranormal Portal Radio, radio@gmail.com. That was Burp Talking with Brent. Thank you. For my next trick.
I'm going back to high school.
Sorry. I'm not usually a pig, but anyway. So let's get into our meat of the potatoes tonight, Don. What do you think of these time slips?
I think time slips are awesome, and if we don't watch
Time
the clock,
anomalies.
we'll slip right into a break. So,
Well, let's get a couple of these out there and just see
Yeah,
what people
absolutely.
think. So this is one. It says, as usual, my day of work was coming to an end, and I was putting the last load of clothes away in our bedroom when I heard a ruckus on the baby monitor just a few feet away from me. I thought it was really weird, and when I knew my husband and toddler were both in the living room watching TV as my 2-year-old drifted silently off to sleep, curled in my husband's lap as he was watching the evening news. My bedroom door was straight in front of me, and I could see all the way down the hall to my hubby and son in the recliner, and this ruckus of the monitor continued. It didn't take me long to realize the sounds were really familiar. Early in the day, I was in my toddler's room putting a load of folded clothes into the drawers and picked up some toys and books that weren't being played with at the time. And as I was doing this, I was telling my son about the story of Jack and the Beanstalk for the first time. Now I stood in disbelief as I heard the drawers being pulled open and shut, and the toys being moved and books being put into their places, but I nearly fainted when I heard my son's voice over the monitor. I kept looking back and forth at my hubby and now sleeping child in the chair in the living room, and the monitor sitting on my dresser that was literally replaying the specific events from earlier that day. The monitor is just a standard baby monitor from Walmart, and it's not a recorder at all, but instead monitors the sounds coming from the room as they happen at the current time only. I listened as my voice retold the story of Jack and the Beanstalk, and listened as my son responded in baby talk to the tale he had never heard before. The incredible part was all this happened 5 hours earlier on that very day. I quickly called my husband into the room, and as he listened to the last part of the story, with my voice coming through the monitor and our son's coos and chuckles, he stood stunned and turned his head and looked at our sleeping son, flopped peacefully over his shoulder. In disbelief, he asked, "How in the hell?" As his voice drifted off, trying not to miss a thing, I just stared at him with disbelief as well, as we both just shook our heads. This has never happened before or since, and became clear from the beginning that we were listening to some kind of warp in time. I never imagined that I would be witness to it, and must admit, if it happens to you, it is indeed one of the most incredible moments one can ever experience. And that is bizarre. I don't know how to explain that. There's no buffer, there's no memory, there's no... it's just a point-to-point, like a walkie-talkie, essentially, with one side always on and the other side always listening. There isn't a whole lot to baby monitors by way of that. And I don't know. The only thing is you don't know where do they live. Could somebody have recorded that and played it back over a frequency? I mean, I wouldn't put it past, if they're living in a metropolitan area, that somebody's being a dick somewhere, just trying to get a rise out of them.
Right.
But if it is indeed, if they do live what would be normally out of the range of anybody else, or, if it is truly an anomaly of that nature, then that is absolutely profound.
I wonder if that might have something to do with ham radios, because, when we were kids in high school, I don't know about you guys, but when I was a kid in high school, we used to drive around on Friday, Saturday nights, and we used to play on the CB and, things like that. And occasionally, we would get basically stomped on by somebody who had a ham radio.
Oh, really?
Because you're not supposed to use a ham radio on CB channels, because they call you mud duck at that point. You can't get out of the mud. You know, they're just so overpowering because they're a small radio station is what they are.
Oh, okay.
You know, so they're not supposed to be using on those channels basically. But the point is those baby monitors run on radio signals, right? So, you know, they send one's a receiver, one's a transceiver. So, you know, they're sending one-way messages. So
Right.
what if somebody had a ham radio and they just happen to key to that point on the dial, and there it happens?
It could be. I don't know.
Who knows?
It's all on the table in the paranormal, but we'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen, for after the hour break, so don't go away for more of Time Anomalies and such on the Paranormal Portal.
Everybody likes to play their games. Everybody loves to place their bets. They don't understand the price I paid. They don't care to comprehend. Trace their lines upon my body, dripping scars across my heart. Raging anger pours inside me as their lies keep falling apart. But I'm not broken yet. I'm not broken yet. I'm not broken yet. I am finished with my silence. I am not a stupid boy. No more breaking me with kindness. Just you dance upon my joy. Leading me with empty promise. You're just another fucking mess. Taking off the slice of my sanity. Just make sure that you're well fed. I'm not broken yet. I'm not broken yet. I'm not broken yet. I'm not broken
I can see you, Mommy. Where are you? I've never sensed anything like it. Carol Ann is not like those she's with. They're attracted to the one thing about her that's different from themselves. Her life force. It is very strong. It gives off its own illumination. It is a light that implies life and memory of love and home and earthly pleasures. Something they desperately desire, but can't have anymore. Right now, she's the closest thing to that.
Poltergeists are usually associated with an individual. Hauntings seem to be connected with an area. A house, usually.
Poltergeist disturbances are of fairly short duration, perhaps a couple of months. Hauntings can go on for years.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Paranormal Portal. We are still rocking the night away here. And I, of course, am joined by my good friend and co-host, Mr. Longbeard, again.
Hola again.
Again. All right, so
Bunch of
tonight
parapeeps.
we are discussing time anomalies, paranormal time anomalies. And again, to let you know, it's just things that seem out of time, seem out of place, they seem like they don't really fit right. And it's an exciting topic to me because, again, it really demonstrates a robust reality. It just demonstrates a very dynamic reality. It's not just, ticks of a clock and days on a calendar, and there's so much more going on here. And when these things happen, I think they demonstrate some real profound nature of what is possible. So if there are time anomalies, and if these are natural occurrences, is it then possible that there can be time travelers? Is it possible that if these things are accurate, if only one of the stories that we cover tonight is true, then that means that there is a naturally occurring phenomena that through some means is triggering a time anomaly, a wormhole of sorts, or the ability to change reality as we know it, and by means of adjusting time. So if those things were measurable, or if there was enough development put into measuring them, figuring out what factors are going on that create such anomalies, then is time travel right around the corner. Right. Now there are many that believe it's already happening, and maybe it is. I'm not discounting that, but it's one thing to sit from the outside going, well, yeah, there's time travelers, okay. But if you can demonstrate there are natural or occurring phenomena, right, which would duplicate that on some level, that things are happening out of sequence, out of order. Maybe they're way ahead, maybe they're way behind. Like the last story we covered, the baby monitor was rebroadcasting a conversation that happened 5 hours earlier. And that is incredibly, incredibly profound if it is indeed an honest and accurate depiction of what actually happened.
Right.
No, it's possible she doesn't even know, that somebody was spoofing her or scamming her. Yeah. But if indeed, they seem to believe that it is happening, and if they are indeed right that it did happen, then the ramifications of such a thing are absolutely immense. And what would that give us the ability to do then? If we could look ahead, if we could look behind, if we could change behind, and make now better. I don't know. Are we working on different paradoxes at that point where reality as we know it would fall apart because we'd screw it up somehow, which tends to be a human trait. Whatever we put our fingers in, we tend to kill. So,
real quick, Hacker One wants to know if he can put us on the big screen at his work.
Please, yeah, by all means.
Go ahead, Hacker. Put us up there. Put us on the big screen, buddy.
Actually, I want to get some pics from your phone of that too, and email them to paranormalportalradio@gmail.com. That would be awesome.
That would be cool.
It would be such a charge for me to see a shot of us on the big screen at wherever it is you're working. That would be really cool. So please do. We would be honored to be on the big screen and entertaining all of your
Clientele.
patrons or clientele. Absolutely. So, time anomalies. Here we go. Let's get into some more. That was a very cool baby monitor story. All right, so this one is, I was walking downtown in Tacoma, Washington. I think we might have touched this one before. But, these are so cool.
That's almost hometown for me.
Yeah, I know. That's what I thought about initially, and I think you might have said that the last time. That's what made me think I must have shared this before, but possibly not.
Are we experiencing time?
Yeah, we are having our own time anomaly.
There's a glitch in the Matrix.
All right. Well, we are a glitch in the Matrix. We redefine the Matrix, I think. All right. So one evening around 9 o'clock, and I was on my way to catch up with a friend at a certain crossroads intersection. The year was 1976, and I was enlisted in the Army and was stationed at Fort Lewis. I remember it was April, and I was walking. I started wondering what time it was. So I looked around for the nearest store and where I could find out the time. I looked across the street, and there was a walk-in movie theater. And I figured that was as good a place as any. Then the weirdest thing happened. I started to cross the street, and next thing I know, my vision was clearing up, and I was standing in front of the ticket counter inside the lobby. I had a ferocious headache, and my legs were really unsteady. I recovered a little, but the headache was really powerful. I bowed and started rubbing my head, and after a minute or so, I heard a gasp. I looked up, and there was this pretty girl on the other side of the counter with a really shocked look on her face. She asked me how I got in. With the throbbing pain in my head, I looked at her and didn't know exactly what to say. I was really confused. I started to walk toward the counter, and she backed up. Now, she had a really scared look on her face and asked me again, "How did you get in here?" I looked up at the wall behind her, and there was a clock hanging there. I started to ask, "What time is it?" And she told me that I had to leave or she'll call the police. I felt really weird. It was really hard to explain, and I felt like I had broken through into an absolutely unfamiliar territory, and I didn't recognize it. I stood there for a while, and that's when the girl went into the back room. I could hear her talking to somebody. I turned around and started to walk towards the doors, and that's when this big guy comes out of the back room, walked around the counter, and before I could say anything, grabbed me by the arm and pulled me towards the entryway. He opened the door and shoved me outside and told me to get out of there and went back inside.
Get out of here.
I still couldn't figure out what was happening. I stood there looking around, rubbing my head, and then it dawned on me. The time on the clock read after midnight. I looked back at the theater, and it had a closed sign on the front door. The girl and the guy were still there looking at me. Then the big guy opened the door again and warned me that if I didn't leave right now, he was going to kick me in the tail. So I started to walk away, still confused, and as I was walking, I heard the guy say, "I don't know how you got inside with the big door being locked, but you better not come back." The headache eventually went away, and I never did meet my buddy. Wow. So this person is crossing the street on his way. It's earlier in the evening, and suddenly he's no longer crossing the street. He's actually in the lobby of the theater,
Right.
and he's got a throbbing headache, and there's a shocked girl standing there going, "Hey." So,
How'd you get in?
right. So how did that happen? How is that possible? Now, what you have to wonder is, in the case of these time anomalies, are they just these random portals that open and close? Or is this somehow demonstrating some untapped ability that's within the mind of us all?
Right.
I mean, are we capable? You hear all these stories about what is the human mind capable of? We could, we could move houses with our minds if we had the full capacity. You hear all these ideas and they sound fantastic and all that, but what does it mean? Well, is it possible that we can, if we are forming our consciousness and we are forming the reality via our consciousness, is it possible that we could form it in such a way as to leave linear time as we know and be in a different part of that linear time.
Right.
And this is where it gets really really hard to follow. I mean, it's hard to intellectualize, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, because, well, where the hell was I going with that?
I am not sure.
I'm not sure either.
You only just started, so you really
I know,
you really didn't go anywhere.
Yeah, well, yeah, that may be part of the problem. Maybe I should have went somewhere. But I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. It's the concept of being able to slip forward or backwards in time is just crazy to me. It's crazy exciting. So I'd love to, like I said, I'd love to do it. I have a similar story.
Uh-huh.
And it says, back in 1996, Frank was out shopping and decided to visit a British video store to look for a British music store to look for a CD. As he walked along near the post office, he suddenly felt as if he had stepped into an oasis of quietness. He was then shocked to see a small box van reminiscent of the 1950s speed across his path, narrowly missing him and honking its horn. Frank realized that now he was standing in the middle of the road and looking at what should have been a Dillon's bookstore was now a Crips. It's now had Crips on its sign. Inside he saw upmarket ladies' handbags and shoes, and no books. Frank followed a young woman inside and watched in disbelief as the interior snapped back to Dillon's. The girl was still there, and Frank grabbed her arm, asking if she had seen the same thing. She replied, "Yes. I thought this was a clothes shop. I was going to go look around, but it's a bookshop." So, one was going to a bookstore or CD store, and the other one was going to a clothing store, and they kind of crossed paths.
Wow.
So like the girl was back in 1950 and he was in 1996. So a similar story there. Another incident in Liverpool involved a teenager who went shopping to buy some baby clothes for her sister who just had a baby. She noticed that a new branch of Mother Care had opened on the corner of Lord Street. When she went inside and selected some pretty items, including a polka dot bib, a pink velour cardigan, and all at surprisingly low prices. However, when she tried to pay with her credit card, confused staff told her that they couldn't accept it. Not having enough cash, she went to another store before returning home. When she told her mom about it, she was irritated to find that her mother refused to believe that store was there because she knew it had closed years before and it was now a bank.
Wow.
Her mother banked there. The pair quarreled and decided to go back, and sure enough, that store was gone, and it was a bank.
Wow.
There you go.
That's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
No, that's interesting. Not a criminal in the TFR chat says, those times, let's see, where is it?
Those times you got scared?
Yeah, it keeps jumping on me.
Yeah, me too. Because people keep posting.
They keep typing. It's times you got scared and thought you might die, perhaps in a vehicle. Someone say we died in another timeline at that point, cheating the ferryman.
Sounds good to me.
And I thought, that's a good point. Very interesting. And is that when we shift dimensions? Is that when things like the Mandela effect happen because we merged into a different dimension, reality, and suddenly there's some things in this reality that don't make quite that aren't quite the same as the one that we left.
Right.
That's wow. I mean, that gets really deep then, right? So if people are, if that's the way it works, say for instance you have multiple versions of yourself going through this very moment, and if something happens, but it's some kind of fluke. Do you just get bumped into the next available dimension? And that's where your new home is, where things are really close to the same as they are in where you came from. But, suddenly you're in a different place and perhaps missed moments, like just moments apart. Maybe they're not completely synchronous, or maybe there's hours apart. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
So in the instance of this guy crossing the street going towards the theater, did he get hit by a car? And then the next moment he's aware of, he's in the theater.
Right.
Is that the differential between dimensions? Wow. Yeesh.
That would suck.
That is
That would
something, though,
suck.
right? That
but,
is something.
But he Not a Criminal also goes to say that he's experienced something like that several times in his lifetime.
Wow.
If I read it correctly. So let me go back and make sure. But it's interesting. Yeah, he says I've had several different lives in this lifetime. So interesting.
No, I'm going to read Zerlats. I haven't read it before this, but he says, I can swear this place near my home was always a deli. It turned out to be a Thai food place.
Oh, jeez.
I've never been to either before. When I asked how long they had been there, they told me over a decade. Wow. So that's definitely a time anomaly, but it's time-space, right? So dimensional, perhaps. And that certainly, fits the bill for tonight's show as well. What happens in these things? What happens? No, Regla says, for me it has to do with marking things in reincarnation visits, which is one of the reasons for the Catholic Church ban on that way back, which wasn't all that long ago. Oh, okay. So I did. Do you mean the ban on reincarnation, Regla? Is that what you're talking about? That they don't acknowledge that that's possible? Let me know in the chat if you get a chance. Oh, and then Dub C says, have you ever met someone who swears they know you, and yet you don't recall ever having met them? Yes, that's happened to me several times.
That's a case of doppelganger.
Right. It could be, and that's a good point. Thank you, Don, for bringing that up. But I mean, it is. That could be a situation where you have a doppelganger running around, and it may be in your dimension. It may be that you shifted to a dimension where that doppelganger has existed. I don't know. There's the old saying, we all have our own doppelganger. It's out there somewhere. And I've many times in my life been told that I look exactly like some friend or some. I used to, when I was younger, I used to get told that I looked exactly like John Dye on Touched by an Angel. I was like a dead ringer for that guy at a period of my life, and he's a great guy as far as I could tell. Seemed like a real good person. I don't know much about him, but I did watch the show finally because I was like, who do they keep talking about? I don't know this, and I watched it. It was like, oh yeah, it looks a lot. It looked almost creepy to see it on screen because at the time of Touched by an Angel, I looked exactly like that.
Huh.
I've since
grown more mature.
I've since blossomed a bit, but yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, is that a case of doppelgangers? Then when your people come up, hey, I haven't seen you for a while. What have you been up to? And it's like, who the hell are you? I don't know you. I mean, none of us would ever say that, or most of us would never say that. But that's is there someone else out there? Is that the you moving into a different dimension? That's a great topic, great idea, guys, and I love your guys' contributions.
Now that you mention that, though, because there's this one person I bump into every now and then here in town, and I swear I know this person, and I do know I know this person, but I always thought this person's name was Stephanie, but it's not. It's totally different, you know. And so, but I know that person because I can go back in some paperwork and stuff I have, and I know that I know this person. But for some reason, I am convinced of the wrong name.
Wow.
But I know, because everybody knows who knows me, that knows this person, knows I know this person. Wow. But I know this person as Stephanie, not as their real name.
Wow.
And I just can't figure that one out.
That is weird. I don't know.
Yeah.
Perhaps
crazy.
she lied to you.
Well, no, that wouldn't be possible.
Okay.
Because I know what her driver's license says. So, but anyhow, but it's crazy because I swear her name is Stephanie. I swear it. I swear it. But I know it's not. I just know it's not.
That is very interesting. And that's the thing about the paranormal, ladies and gentlemen. It's all on the table here. There's nothing that's that doesn't fall into this category. Not just in paranormal in general, but the time anomalies take many forms. Is it just repeats? Is it just echoes? Let's see what another one says. Now this is an account of somebody saying that they went forward into time, into the future. So it all began when my friend and I were going to another friend's house last September, and I don't know when this was recorded, so I don't know. We were driving his beat up old truck, and the drive went smoothly for about the first hour, and then suddenly the truck engine quit. He and I were stranded on this deserted highway in the middle of the night, and we were surrounded on both sides of the road by cornfields. That
Here we are back at cornfields.
I tell you, it's corn. Something about that corn, ladies and gentlemen. Into the distance, and he began a desperate effort to fix the truck and make it run, but he tried to fix it in vain. Nothing worked, and finally he gave up, and we decided to walk to the nearest town, which was only about a couple miles away, to find a phone to call another friend. We walked for what seemed like hours, and the town wasn't anywhere in sight. However, just when we were getting desperate, we saw a light, a glorious light, shining over the steep hill in front of us. We ran up the hill that blocked us from the light, and we were absolutely flabbergasted by what we saw. Just over the hill, he and I saw what could only be described as a futuristic city with lights coming out of every window of the massive metallic towers. In the middle of the city was a huge silver dome, and I stared at the city, absolutely stunned, until my friend elbowed me, which pulled me out of my trance, and pointed up at the sky. And hovering above the city were hundreds of these hovering craft. One flew toward us with absolute blazing speed, and he and I were so afraid that we took off running back down to the broken down truck. I never looked back, but I felt someone watching us the whole way. When we got back, the truck started without any problem, and he and I took off as fast as we could in the opposite direction.
No doubt.
We never went back and never spoke of it again. So that's an incident of people getting a glimpse of some future. And, I don't know. They didn't see the town. They didn't find the town they were supposed to find. It's now the hard part to understand is they said they walked for what felt like hours. It was only supposed to be 2 hours or 2 miles, but they were walking for hours.
Right.
Came up to this hill with a light coming over the top. They crest the hill. They see this amazing city and hovering vehicles, and they get freaked out and run back. But it sounds like they just ran back down the hill to the truck.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So and it might just be the way it was recorded. Maybe perhaps they ran for a couple hours or whatever. I don't know. But that to me doesn't quite make sense. But anyway, very strange. Now, what do you make of something like that, Don?
Those are. I wonder if part of that's missing time, because they mentioned that they broke down. They started walking. It took them a while. They got over the hill, and there it was. That's all fantastic. Mm-hmm. But you're right. Like when they ran back to that's a long run. You know. So I wonder if at some point that they crossed over that time stream later in their walk to it, mm-hmm. and then they hit that transition, and it swooped them back. Because it's like, have you ever had you've gone somewhere and it takes you forever to get there, and then you get there and you do your thing and you come back and it's like just that quick you're home. That and Brooks has addressed that in one of our shows, but he attributes it to automatic driving, because I know that if I get in my truck after work, and drive home, I don't notice it. Mm-hmm. I just know I'm work, home. That's it. And that's just because it's later at night. I've done my duty for the day, and dang it, I'm going home. Right. And that's all my mind's on. Now, I wonder if it may have something to do with that.
Sure.
But those, seeing a futuristic city would be quite incredible, but,
now the question is, would you go back to your car? Or would you just go check out the city?
I'd be checking out Tomorrowland.
I think I would be too. And not because I don't love and care for people that are here. Of course I do, and I certainly wouldn't want to live the rest of my life without them.
Right.
But I'd be banking on the fact that they could get me home.
Yeah, hey, can you pop me in one of your hovering cars?
Yeah,
and get me back.
Just wrap me around the sun a few times at the twice the speed of light, and I'm going to go home. However that works. But I'd be. It's one of those opportunities that I don't know if you could pass it up.
Right.
Wouldn't you feel compelled to go look?
Yeah.
And then
I
wouldn't you
would.
be compelled to kind of try to see what they're doing and see if you could bring something back?
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. You know, like
They won't
a
miss this phaser.
like a history book on baseball games.
I'd be looking for the lightsabers. I'm going to be a Jedi when I get home.
Oh, I'm an ordained Jedi minister, right?
I didn't know.
Yes,
I,
that is
I think
a
I
fact.
might have known that. Now that
It
you
is
say
a
it.
fact.
Don is actually a Jedi, ladies and gentlemen, and they can probably marry you. If anybody needs to get married and wants a portal wedding, Don could officiate as the Jedi minister.
Wow.
Can you officiate weddings?
Yeah.
There you go.
Absolutely can.
There's the bell, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to take our last break, and we will be right back for more of the mayhem that is the portal. Don't go away, because we will be taking attendance. And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Paranormal Portal's last half hour. We're in the home stretch, ladies and gentlemen, and it's the hardest stretch of the night for me. But I'm going to throw it over to Mr. Longbeard.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, I thought we were doing that.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
All right. It's all yours. The floor is yours, sir.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Well, as last week, we introduced a new segment, the last half hour of the show, and it's Dawn from the Aether Archives. Last week, I talked about spiritual photography, which I went back and watched the replay, and I was very unhappy with the way I presented the information.
You did fine.
I did fine. I appreciate that. But for some reason, it's like if I write something and present it, I get like this, you know?
Sure.
And so today I didn't prepare anything. I just have some things I want to talk about.
Sounds like the portal.
Whatever may pop up in the portal, it may be a short subject. But I wanted to talk about antique ghost hunting apparatus, ideas, ways that they use. Methodologies. Very good. Let me adjust my camera just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
There we go. That's better. Now it just needs to focus.
It's focused. You're good.
All right. So anyhow, we have nowadays, we've got ghost boxes. We've got, spirit boxes. We've got
structured light.
Structured light. Exactly. We got light grids. We've got infrared, EVP recorders. Exactly. And so we have all this high technology, and it's like, we don't know anything else, but, several times people have brought up the idea, and I think Dan Pruitt may have brought it up once too. He was slightly talking about the old ways, but I wanted to talk about a few of the things that they used to use back in the day. Now, the first thing you have to realize is they really didn't do ghost hunting. What they did was they had seances. They had a medium there. They had people, sitters, what they call sitters, and they would do a seance. And some of the things they used to do is a friend of ours recently made a video. It was an interesting video about...
Who's that friend?
That would be Zara, Paranormal White Noise.
Yep.
She talked about how they used a compass to kind of point towards that magnetic disturbance that supposedly, ghosts can manifest. So yeah, okay. So compasses, because of the magnetic responses from the apparition or whatever that is. Also, they used to take objects that could be easily moved and draw chalk lines around them, and they would watch it like demons, just waiting for that thing to move outside or just move and touch that chalk line or something like that. So these were supposedly, ways that they could manifest. Well, now, let's go talk real quick though, because one thing that we do in nowadays is we use like a flashlight that you can just twist. It's a twist-on flashlight.
Yep. And
you just twist it to just until it turns on, then just give it a little tiny twist back so it turns off. And the idea is to get the apparition, the manifestation, whatever that is, to just turn that light on, and so, that's an old style way to do it as well. And they did have flashlights back then, but they were quite a bit bigger, probably used a lot more power. So yeah, those are things that could have happened back then as well. And also, hey, blow this candle out if you are here with us. So candles, lit candles, things like that. And supposedly accordions. I love this. Accordions. And people used to have accordions in there, and they would play the accordion and all this kind of stuff. And it's really interesting. But some of the higher tech kind of things they used. Let me get here. And so, an instrument they used was a galvanometer for testing the soul force of the body. Then there is so what they did was, this is
galvanic skin response.
There you go. Yeah, it would test the body response, the sweat, the stress, the heartbeat.
Yep.
Yeah, and they would use that to see if the medium was, how the body changes while the medium is possessed or channeling the spirit. So, yeah, galvanic responses, skin changes in the temperature of the skin, the heartbeat, the way you breathe, things like that. So the galvanometer. There was also a volometer, which would test for electrical disturbances. Basically, it's a nowadays it as a voltmeter. You take the red and the black end, you plug it into your sockets, and you read how much power is coming through it. Very, very similar. It's a very, very an old version of that. And then an oscillograph, kind of like an oscilloscope, to measure the vibrations and the movements of the atmosphere within. Because, of course, if something, you talk about cold spots, they would notice that change in kind of the barometer of the room. So it would record that. So all these older things. Then there was this thing, and I think this is kind of interesting. And then there was it's STHEN, stenometer. It shows varying degrees of psychic force or lack of psychic force. While the psychic, it's called a meter, or the howler, the psychic howler, reveals the presence of any disembodied energy within its field by emitting a loud noise. So, these are pretty interesting. And then, of course, they also used, let me see here. They used a recording device for EVPs, basically.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, they had a spirit dictaphone. I think that's what
was it. Basically a big cone that went into a recording cylinder?
Basically, yeah, with a sound amplifier. Yeah, right. So it's basically like a Victrola.
The old Edison.
Yeah, exactly.
Things, yeah.
And instead of playing, of course, it would inscribe the sound onto a cylinder.
Yeah.
Or I believe they used a softer clay version of a 78 or something like that.
Oh, right.
So so it would be imprinted into the vinyl, whatnot.
Right.
So yeah, those are all interesting ways. There was another one that I thought was interesting. Let's see here. Ghost detector. Where the heck did it go? But it was, it would glow. Gosh, where did it go?
I don't know.
Oh, here. Ghostly sounds thus could be recorded, preserved on phonograph records by the use of an amplifier. And they also have cameras there to catch any emanations or materialized substances.
Okay.
So that's the. But let's see here. What the heck was that thing? It would glow within. It had a mixture of zinc, sulfide zinc, and it would have a lustrometer, an apparatus containing a sulfic zinc screen which glows when a person approaches. The glow varies according to the psychic energy of the person.
Wow. And
this is the reason that a spirit or disincarnate agency might reveal its presence through its glow. So, and that was from a newspaper article in 1922. So, very, very interesting.
That is really interesting. I wonder what the science behind that is. What is it? Zinc and what?
It says sulfide of zinc screen. So let me look that up real quick. So
that's really curious.
Sulfide
I've never heard of that.
Screen.
Huh. You
And
just never know.
Google search this term. A luminescent material, zinc sulfide, with an addition of a few ppm, parts per million, of a suitable activator, exhibits a strong phosphorescence.
Oh, you went dead. Try again. Wait, nope, just wait. Are you back?
Hold on.
Yeah, just undo it quick. We've lost on, ladies and gentlemen.
I think I'm back. No, am I back?
Well,
Am I back? No, I'm not.
No, you're not.
Oh, there I am.
Yep, nice.
Okay, so It exhibits a strong phosphorescence described by Nikola Tesla in 1893 and is currently used in many applications from cathode ray tubes through X-ray screens.
Wow.
To glow-in-the-dark products. Oh! Crack it open, shake it up.
Oh, is that really it?
Can we go back and edit that out? But
No, this is a live show, Don. This is all recorded.
You know, we need to figure out how to do like a 7-second leg. So anyhow, but okay, well okay. So it's zinc sulfide is what makes glow sticks glow.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Okay, so there you go. So interesting stuff.
I wonder
right there.
what the introduction of a spirit energy would cause it to glow. Though.
Yeah,
that's very curious.
Yeah, that's the interesting part.
Huh.
It supposedly at the time the glow varies according to the psychic energy of the person, and is the reason that a spirit or disincarnate agency might reveal its presence through the glow. So it's like saying if you're here with us, make this glow. Well, you know, here's the thing though, and this goes back to I was going to do a physical medium show later, a segment later about physical mediums.
Sure.
But that would be, I would think that would be more of a something that a physical medium, as opposed to a psychic medium, as say, you know, Dee or Deb, you know, with their guides. I think that would be more used for the chicanery of it. You know, I mean, because simple sciences have always been used for abused purposes.
Well, it has, but I mean, it's really cool that, you know, I think that there may be a lot to what they used to do that are, I mean, we're kind of losing that in today's technological age. Like we think we got to spend, you know, thousands of dollars and get the highest cameras and the most amazing voice recorders, and you know, these people were, you know, just garaging it for the most part. They were just trying to figure out something that could work. And, you know, I mean, some of the most profound tests are just using a simple voice recorder and a flashlight. You know, those can create the most amazing sessions. Whereas you can have, you know, $3,000 structured light camera, you know, night vision, and et cetera, ad nauseum. EMF detectors and not catch a lot, but you'd put out a simple twisty flashlight, you know, and use it to get indicator changes from a allegedly from a disembodied spirit, and you can have the most profound sessions and perhaps learn a lot. I don't know. I just think I think that we're so used to throwing money at stuff, that we forget that it's all about making a connection. And here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen, with paranormal research, paranormal investigating, I really believe that it really depends upon the individual. Two people can walk into the same location, each with the exact same equipment, and one person will have these phenomenal results. Another person could have, you know, took a nap and been just as productive. You know what I mean? And it has to do, I really think it has to do with the connection energy of the people present. That has a lot to do with it. So that's why you can have a $2 twisty flashlight and get these amazing sessions, and then have another guy coming in loaded, you know, with $10,000 worth of equipment, get nothing. You know, it's like we're looking for ways to purchase the paranormal. and I think the problem is that there's so many people willing to let you purchase it.
Well, yeah.
You know, it's become, and this is, I mean, business is business, ladies and gentlemen, and I'll never fault somebody for finding a way to make money. That's great. If it helps and you found a niche and people are willing to spend the money, outstanding, good for you. You know, I mean, but it just takes creativity, and it takes getting that connection and coming in with the right energy, and you can have the most mundane things and have these spectacular results.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and you know, like you said, it has probably has a lot to do with intention, you know, because, and you've talked about intention before when you're talking about like exorcists. You know, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what sometimes it doesn't matter what their intention is if they're not that kind of a person. So, you know, my intention is I'm going to go find a ghost, but I'm going to go find a ghost because I want to make money on it. I want to be,
Right.
you know,
Yeah, I want my footage on the news.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have my own Travel Channel show.
And so maybe, maybe the ghosts just go ahead and nope on up out of there.
Well,
They're just
yeah,
like, nope, we're not doing anything.
I mean, wouldn't you though? So let's
I
say,
would, yeah.
let's
I'd be
say
like,
ghosts
"Screw you, buddy."
spirits are really that psychic.
Yeah.
And just believe, ladies and gentlemen, that they can basically just tune into whatever the hell you're thinking. It doesn't matter what you say; they already know because of the, they don't really have ears to hear
The
or eyes to
vibration
see.
of
It's
their energy.
They're receiving and picking up on energy, and including your thought energy. So you can be disingenuous, and they're going to know you're disingenuous, and they're going to go, "Screw you. I'm not giving you anything." But somebody can come in with a really good vibe and say, I just want to connect with you. I want to help. And it's like, okay, let's talk.
Hey, let's have a drink.
It's kind of like, it's kind of like, let's say you, I don't know, let's say you have a patio and out comes the guy, pulls up a guy in a Ferrari and a, $10,000 suit and dripping with gold, and wants to sit around and be all real with you. And then, somebody comes up in T-shirts and shorts and wants to be real with you. You're probably going to be more real with the person in T-shirt and shorts than you are with the guy in a Ferrari and a $10,000 suit.
Well, you
and
never
that's
know.
a dramatization, but you know what I'm saying.
Right, yeah.
But what were you going to say? You never know what?
Well, you never know if somebody rented that.
Well, you're making a lot more out of that
I know.
than what I intended.
Yeah,
but
I understand.
Yeah. So anyway, it's all about the person.
I believe it has to do. I think you're right. I think it has to do with intention. I think it has to do with, Occam's razor. Sometimes, sometimes the simplest solution is the answer. It's not as hard as you think it is. Things like that. So.
Well, yeah, it is what it is. But, thank you so much for that segment, and thanks for that information. And it's really a great
fun stuff. Yeah,
it's great talking points because I think that we overcomplicate things. That sometimes going back to the basics is the right way, the right answer, and maybe develop a new approach from there.
Right.
Because, so many people are using the same approaches and getting some great results in some cases. But again, I think it goes back to the person. It's not so much what you have and how much you've invested. It's all about who are you?
Right.
Are you someone that the spirits want to connect with, or are you someone they want to avoid? So just saying.
Right.
They don't have to hide.
No, they're already hidden. They just have to let you see them.
Yep. They either choose to come out or they choose not to. And if they don't, maybe they're not in the mood, but maybe you're not a cool person.
Maybe
I don't know.
Not that great of a guy.
I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. These are considerations that, it seems to be all gear focused. And it's not gear. It's about the person. So, all right, let's continue our journey into time anomalies with the 7 minutes we have left. I think we'll have a chance to cover. I did want to talk about some of these artifacts out of time because I think these are pretty epic. And so the first one that I wanted to discuss, and this is a time anomaly, ladies and gentlemen, whether you believe it or not, and the reason being is that some of them are so incredibly bizarre. The first one I want to talk to you is about there's a cathedral in Salamanca, Spain. And this is an old, ancient cathedral. It was built in 1102 CE, Common Era, and which makes it incredibly old. It's actually the oldest in the world. Now, what makes this interesting is in their artwork, and you can look this up. It's it's basically known as the astronaut in the cathedral. They have carved into their motifs. I don't know if it's limestone or what they carved, but in this hundreds and hundreds of years old cathedral is an absolute dead ringer for a modern astronaut, like from the lunar landings. He's got the helmet on. He's got the looks like where there would be a clear visor. He's got the backpack and the breathing apparatus and a really puffy suit, and even looks like the moonlander boots. I mean, with that same tread pattern. Now, how did somebody in 1102 know what an astronaut would look like? Does that make sense? So look it up if everybody has a computer, everybody has the internet. Look up the astronaut in the cathedral in Spain, and you'll see this depiction. And I'm here to tell you, this is not just, it's not just some, I can't believe it's a fantastical coincidence. There's something going on here that this person, whoever designed this, or the actual artist that carved it, had some kind of vision of the future or saw something that doesn't make sense. I mean, look at this, Don. It's up on my screen, ladies and gentlemen. Unfortunately, we're mostly radio, but it's audio. But we are on YouTube. But look it up. It's quicker for you guys to look it up than it is for me to put it up on screen. Now, another one is what the hell is this? I wanted to talk about the London Hammer out of, and this is one I've talked about on the show before. This is essentially in London, Texas. An old couple was out walking in the the plain area of where they lived, and they came across this rock, this big rock, with what looked like a piece of wood coming out of it, as if it was embedded in the rock, and they thought it was really peculiar, so they brought it home. Now, when they got home, they were really curious what was going on with this piece of wood coming out of a rock. So they broke it in half. And inside is this perfectly preserved, not perfectly, I mean, it was aged and stuff, but this perfectly preserved mallet head, and the wood coming out was the mallet handle. So somehow this metallic, this iron mallet hammer of sorts became embedded in 300 million year old rock. And there's no way that it could have been fabricated. And the wood handle was so old that it was both, it was carbonating and petrified.
Carbonizing.
So, right.
Something like that.
Yeah, it was basically turning to charcoal
right.
and petrified in some spots. So, I mean, even the wood handle itself shows that age. How does that happen? How is that possible? So somehow, and this would mean 300 or 400 million years ago, someone was walking around with an iron hammer. That's not just a freak of nature. It's an actual, looks like it's like a blacksmith's hammer, for lack of a better term. That's got to be a time anomaly. Now, does it suggest that there was a person carrying a hammer 300 million years ago and decided to drop it in some kind of sediment that became stone? Or does it suggest that somehow a hammer from perhaps the 1800s or early 1900s got transported back in time? I don't know. I can't pretend to know, but it doesn't make sense. How is this possible? How could that be? It doesn't make sense to me at all. So very, very wild. Now, this is another one, and basically, this one I had not heard about, but I just found out about it before the show as I was pulling up some examples. But the legend, and it may or may not be reliable, but the legend of this is according to an article in the Times of London on June 22nd, 1844. Men quarrying rock near Tweed, England, discovered a gold thread embedded in stone about 8 feet down. The thread, when it was removed from the stone, was sent to the offices of a local newspaper called the Kelsa Chronicle. So a gold thread. Now, this isn't just a deposit. It's like a gold thread, as if it was, for weaving into something, or some kind of ornate thread, perhaps used by a jeweler. So very, very interesting. These things are out there, ladies and gentlemen. If any of what we've shared with you tonight is accurate, and again, outside of the listener emails and what we shared of our own accounts, I can't speak to the authenticity of it, but we're putting it out there. People are claiming this stuff is going on, and if it is going on, the world, the universe as we know it, is incredibly, incredibly dynamic. So that's going to about wrap it up, ladies and gentlemen. Please make sure to spread the word about the portal. It's growing amazingly, and you guys have been all wonderful. Now stick around make sure to tune in on Wednesday night on our YouTube-only stream, because we are going to have a special guest, Mr. Philip Torres, the Obake Hunter, is going to be on. We're going to be doing a Halloween edition of the portal, because it happens to fall on Wednesday, and where else? Awesome. Where better to celebrate Halloween than on the portal? So
right, but
we're going to be.
Yep.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Don.
No, I was going to say, don't forget, our Wednesday show is going to be later that night at 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock we're starting
Pacific
on Wednesday,
because
I got to bring my minion trick or treat, and that's just and I'm probably going to be
go trick or treat.
I'm going to be pretty full of candy, so it's gonna I'm going to be I'm going to be trick or treating as well. So we'll be here on Wednesday night, so don't miss it. It should be a great show. We got some special surprises coming up on that Halloween edition. Some things I don't think have ever been done before in paranormal radio or TV that I know of. So we're going to be doing that on Wednesday night, Halloween night here on the Paranormal Portal. But stick around for Beyond the Veil coming up next with Chris and Cherie. Always an amazing show. And I think Jimmy's still on after that, or I'm not sure, though. I know Jimmy's schedule's kind of in flux, so he may or may not be on after that. But we love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. Help each other out. And spread the word about the portal. And spread the word about our YouTube and our Facebook. And anything else you want to spread. But make it love.
Make it all love.
All right. We'll see you guys. Take care.
Night.